When your business becomes the best business it can be, and when your life becomes the best life it can be, it's because you got better people than you to do the things and to work with you. When you surround yourself with highly competent, wonderful humans that you love working with, that your clients enjoy, that just turn out excellent results, everyone wins.
Hello, and welcome back to the Blissful Mompreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Christina Hall, and I am so grateful you're tuning in today. Very excited about today's episode as I have a dear friend and amazing entrepreneur, Amanda Moffett, on the show. Amanda is a powerhouse of radically simple yet highly effective business systems that intersect at faith, family, and fierce entrepreneurship with her magnetic energy of calm, rooted, and sincere joy in the world of online business. Once a ballerina who traveled the world for her dancing, Amanda leapt her way into the realm of high-level entrepreneurship, driven by an insatiable love for systemizing and scaling businesses with God and family at the center. Her journey began at 18 when she seized the reins of her first business, a dance studio, where in her first year of ownership, she doubled the revenue and set the stage for her remarkable ascent into the world of systems, scale, and building a high-performing dream team of result-driven individuals. Amanda now specializes in helping women systemize their business so that they can live their dream, freedom-filled life. Through her proven 6-pillar framework inside her membership, the Freedom Society, and on the Pursuit podcast, Amanda is creating a vibrant community where deeply rooted faith and high-level leadership and business systems coalesce. A valedictorian of her graduating class, ex-ballerina from around the world, devoted wife, and loving mom of 2 little ones, Amanda is redefining how business systems tangibly better the lives of businesswomen around the world. Hi, Amanda. Thank you so much for coming on the Blissful Mompreneur Podcast. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you, Christina. I'm so happy to be here.
All right. So, you bought your first business at just 18 and then doubled your revenue in 5 years. That is incredible. And then sold it all like in a short period of time. What was the key to accomplishing such a feat at such a young age?
Yes. So like you said, I bought my first business at 18, and it was like literally the month after I graduated high school. What I did was I just jumped in head first, completely went all in, decided that even though I knew nothing and had no experience, and it was truly the definition of learning on the job, because I was buying a business that was already established, already with employees and clients. I went from being like literally a teenage high schooler with no business, no responsibilities in that way. Overnight, I had I believe when I first bought it, there were 4 employees, 4 or 5, and then also like about 100 clients. And so all of them were looking to me to make all those decisions and hold that responsibility. And what I did was I made every mistake in the book, learned as quickly as possible, just knew that every day I was going to get up and try my very best, and everything is quote unquote figure outable. And that's what I live by. And I said, okay, well, I'm just going to be the fastest learner ever, and I'm going to do the very best I can, and I will fix my mistakes and do better next time. And I did that over and over and over and over again. And here I am years and years later. I've since sold that business. I doubled the revenue in my first year, and then continued scaling and systemizing, hiring, firing, creating my dream team, and sold that successfully to 2 of my employees who bought it as a partnership, and just am honestly so grateful for the whole journey. So doing all that at a very young age taught me to just figure it out and keep getting up every single time you fall. And when you do that consistently, you really do come out the other end. And all of that hard work really does pay off when you work intentionally.
Wow, that is just incredible. And it really shows just how resilient we are as people, that it's hard to make mistakes and fall down over and over again and then pick yourself back up and try again, but you did that, and it was so worth it because you scaled this amazing business and then were able to sell it, and I think you were, 23 when you sold the business?
Yes, I was 23. I'm trying to remember. My birthday was around selling like 22 to 23. I sold my business.
Crazy. Really amazing. So you probably like you mentioned, you experienced a lot of different stresses and challenges. So I'd love to just kind of unpack the various things that you struggled with and then the lessons that you learned from those challenges. So you had mentioned to me that you had a lot of stress like around communicating with clients. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was younger. When I bought the business, I was younger than all of my clients and all of my team members. And I think that played into a lot of like perception things and relationship dynamics. I had to prove myself, right? I had to kind of earn respect and trust. And I get it. But it was a tough few years. And so what I learned was I just didn't understand people very well. So through being put into a position where all of a sudden I had a lot of communication with a lot of people about a lot of different things, I quickly learned to listen better, to preempt problems and to preempt stressors of clients, and to really think through, well, how might they think about this? How might they perceive this? Just because it's clear to me does not mean it's clear to someone else. That's a huge, huge lesson I learned. Most of my early day stressors were having to do with communication, perception, expectations. And what I learned was there really is no such thing as over communication. There truly isn't. There's a lack of communication, and then there's clear communication. And clear communication normally means that you communicate some random detail in many different ways, multiple different times. And that was a really big lesson for me that would have saved me a lot of my early day stress. So, but when I think back to those years, I made basically every mistake you can think of in every area: marketing mistakes, team mistakes, client mistakes, financial mistakes, just all of the things. And so, but I think a lot of the biggest hardships came from me not understanding communication dynamics.
I love what you said about listening. And because that is something I even talk to my team about all the time. I'm like, listen more than you speak, and it can solve so many problems because at the heart of it, you're really trying to understand the other person's perspective and what they're going through, and if someone is very emotional about a certain situation and you take the time to really listen to their concerns, oh my gosh, they immediately calm down. It's just such a powerful tool. And then you can come to a resolution more easily.
Exactly. People become so much more reasonable when they feel that you genuinely are hearing them and you're just there with them. And I didn't fully understand that at 18, which is understandable, but that was one of the most key lessons I think I'll always take with me.
Wow. It's funny what you just said reminded me of my, she's not really a toddler anymore. She's 5.5. But my daughter, she'll say to me sometimes, maybe I'm distracted or whatnot, and maybe I'm a little dismissive of what she's saying. And she's like, Mommy, you're not hearing me. And anytime she says that, I take a step back and I go, you're right, Gracelyn, tell me again what you're trying to tell me. And I stop what I'm doing and I really try to listen. And like it, I love how our children can teach us so much. It's really incredible. But this is not about it's not a parenting podcast. So back to business. So in your Freedom Society, you teach a 6-pillar framework. Can you give us an overview of that framework?
Yes, definitely. So the 6 pillars are leadership, team, profit, offer, marketing, and operations. And what I've found is that if you look at any business, it doesn't matter if it's service-based, product-based, remote, in person, brick or mortar, like it does not matter. These are the basic 6 pillars that you'll find. And if you want to systemize your business and create a business that truly actually feels good to run and that brings you joy and not like this daily burden and overwhelm, then these are the 6 pillars that you want to be cleaning up, organizing, systemizing, really going through intentionally. And so inside of my online community, the Freedom Society, I go through so many different things to think about and to work through in these 6 pillars and how to systemize them and make them run smoother and just run better. I call the Freedom Society like the Netflix of time freedom and time management and business ownership, because it's like it truly is kind of like Netflix. You can just go into all these different pillars, all of these different topics and subtopics, binge watch all the videos and trainings I have, download all the things I have in there, and you can just take a look at like those 6 pillars. There's obviously a lot to cover in all of those different areas of business. Lots of great things to think about. If you want to really systemize and kind of up level how you run your business and how you manage your own personal like time freedom as the CEO.
Wow. I love how organized that whole idea is, because you're right. Like every business, like everything that you have to do does fall under one of those categories. And then to have the freedom to go in and say, okay, I'm really struggling with marketing. I'm going to just binge watch all the marketing content and just clean up that aspect of my business. That just makes someone's life so much easier. So that's wonderful. I'm sure your students really appreciate having that resource.
I pray they do.
Yes. So what does time freedom look like for you? And how did you start creating that for you, for your life?
Mm-hmm. So when I think of time freedom, I really like to think of time flexibility, because I enjoy working and I enjoy working with other women who are also ambitious and they have big goals and dreams, and and so to me, time freedom doesn't necessarily look like I'm always on vacation and I never work, and it's like sometimes I think people have this perception of time freedom that is maybe not completely in line with what might be like actually truly good for their reality week to week for their whole life, But when I think of what I enjoy as time freedom, it's flexibility. It's being able to say, oh, my kids woke up sick this morning. No stress, no problem. I am not burdened at all by my tasks that I was going to do. I have systems in place for these situations. It's no biggie. And I am just going to cuddle my babies and not have a single moment of stress or guilt or anything. That is what time freedom is to me. It is also being able to schedule a dentist appointment in the middle of the day on a random day and not have a second thought about how that will impact my work or schedule or whatever. It's a friend texting me at 2 p.m. saying, hey, want to get together for coffee at 3? Sure, I would actually love to do that. It's actually not a problem for me to do that because of how I have set up my business model, because of how I've set up my systems. I actually have the flexibility to do that. So I will go enjoy that. And so it's also to me, time freedom is also thinking, it happens to be a Saturday night and the kids are sleeping and my husband's doing his own thing or whatever it is. I want to work right now just because it's a weekend. I actually enjoy this project I'm working on. I'm going to sit down with my favorite show and work on my laptop a little bit. Like, it's the flexibility to choose when you work, how you want it set up, how you want to spend your time. So that's what time freedom means to me. And you asked, how do I do that? How do I create that in my business? I kind of mentioned it before, but the number one thing I tell my students to think about is their business model. Because it's really tricky. I see this kind of all the time. Let's say someone comes to me and they have a one-on-one offer and their revenue is directly tied to their one-on-one Zoom calls with their clients or whatever it is. That's wonderful. I love that business model. There are so many pros. But also, if you genuinely don't want to be tied to calls and that type of schedule, then that would be the first place to look at. I don't want to systemize how you do your one-on-one offer if the one-on-one offer isn't even the right business model. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the actual business model of your actual offers and your services has to be what you choose intentionally first, so that you can then make those other choices down the road of how are you going to organize that all? What's going to be automated? How are you going to use technology? What do you want team members for? How are you going to delegate those? How are you going to keep your team members accountable and feeling inspired and loving their work? Like, all of that comes after, what is my business model even? How do I want to present my offers? What does that mean for my actual schedule? And from there, it's a lot easier to systemize, because you'd be surprised by how many people right away want to dive into the nitty-gritty work of just teach me technology automations. I'm like, that's awesome. And yes, we use them and there are lots of great things to do. But what about, have you considered XYZ even before that? And then they think, oh my gosh, you're right. I actually have always wanted to delete that whole area of my business and membership instead or something, And so it's really a good thing to think about when you're first starting out.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And that's actually something I've talked about on the podcast a number of times, but that whole idea of just simplifying things, simplifying your business model and yeah. And really thinking about your current season of life and what business model will support that.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
And that kind of takes me into the next question. So a lot of our listeners are pregnant small business owners who are preparing their businesses for maternity leave. So you have 2 children yourself and you're a business owner. So were you able to take maternity leaves when you had your 2 children? And what did that look like? And how did you prepare your business for that?
Yes. So I have 2 very little children, 1.5 and 2.5 at the time of this recording. And so all of this feels very fresh. And one of my favorite stories about kind of creating time freedom in my business, this was in my previous business. I used to own a dance studio, and when I was pregnant with my second child, my son, we were getting ready to start the new year of classes. A dance studio runs with the school year most of the time. So the first day of school is our first day of classes. So it's a really big deal. It's a really big deal in that industry. That first day, that first week, it's huge. It's like kind of Super Bowl of dance studio world. Like, it's a big deal. And there are so many admin things in that first week. It's a lot. It's a heavy week. And my son's due date was, I'm remembering now, I think it was like the day before or the day after, like the first day of scheduled, like, we're all starting classes, all the team is back, all the kids are back. Like, it's a huge deal. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, okay, well, whether he's early or late, a few days, it's still going to be around that big time,
Mm-hmm.
And so what I did was I made sure that I took myself out of the operations as much as possible. I did that by deleting things, so simplifying, bringing everything down to the bare minimum. And what I found was you truly don't need as many moving parts as you think you do. You really actually don't. Like, I promise, it feels like you need everything you're doing right now. I promise you, you don't. Um, and then what I did was I really leaned into training my team. I really emphasized giving them the right tools, really motivating them, inspiring them, having them kind of feel that ownership of their role. So it's not just me delegating random tasks, but it's them actually thinking outside the box of how we could do that task differently, or, just giving them the reins a little bit. And what I found is when you give like wonderful, reasonable, great team members the reins, and when you involve them in decision making and you kind of nurture them into being more of that leader rather than waiting for you to make all the decisions, you just watch this like amazing human blossom and flourish. And then I'll get back to my story of like my personal maternity leave and the day of his birth. So it turns out he was born on the first day of class. And yes, of course. And it was a 23.5 hour labor. And I'll just say this, I was not involved in the first day of class at all whatsoever. I was not even close to thinking of my business on that day, And I couldn't, there was no way I could be there in person, even answer emails, take any sort of a call. Like, I'm out, I'm literally in active labor. And I remember having my son and remembering and realizing, like, I can't believe I had my baby on the first day of classes. I wasn't even there in person. I didn't see anyone. I didn't talk to anyone. And you know what? The day ran without any hiccups. My team told me that everything went amazing. It was so smooth. All the kids had a wonderful time. The parents had all their answers, questions. Like, my business just ran. It just all happened because the months and months ahead of time, I went through every single scenario, every single thing with my team members. I said basically, like, if you could not get a hold of me for 1 month, what would you need from me right now to feel confident and good about your role? Okay, think of other things. How could I support you better now so that in a month, if I dropped off the face of the earth, you wouldn't be stressed. You would feel really good about your day-to-day tasks and role. And asking questions like that have really helped everyone prepare. And then when the time came to it, and I literally gave birth on like the biggest day of our literal calendar year for my business, I thought that was so ironic. It worked wonderful. And I felt that freedom of, oh my gosh, I can't believe this actually worked. And then we kept going from there, and it was a blessing.
Wow, that's such a great story. And it's like things just seem to work out that way a lot of times, where like on the worst possible day, that's when like our kids get sick or we give birth, But amazing that you did all that preparation and it worked, and no one bothered you when you were in the middle of giving birth. It's really remarkable. And I also want to just comment on what you said about being just kind of in awe of seeing your team members grow in confidence and flourish. And I know you're a teacher. I'm also a teacher. And that's kind of why we got into teaching, right? Because we like seeing that transformation, and to be able to see that in our team members is just so rewarding. And that honestly is what has allowed me to step away from teaching, because I know I can still have that impact on my team members, where I can make that positive impact. So, All right. So many of our listeners really struggle with this idea of letting go, or like they constantly want to micromanage. What advice would you give them if they're struggling with that?
I totally get it. And I have a little bit of tough love, okay? And I say this with so much gentle grace and compassion and love, okay? But at the root of that thought, the root cause of that thought is a place of pride and selfishness. The thought of, well, but I just am the best at that, or I'm the only one who can do those things. Like I can't delegate that. I can't let go of that, or any thought like that. I know it might ruffle some feathers, or it's a little hard to hear sometimes, but there is someone else out there in this entire world on this planet that can also do that task. And basically, most of the time, there is someone out there who can even do it better.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's sometimes it's a little hard to be reminded of that, but also it should be so fun to be reminded of that too, because then all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, my only job needs to be finding that person, training them right, and plugging them in a really good, smooth way so that they feel equipped to do it and they're able to do it. So I kind of want to challenge you to shift your mindset from, oh, no, I don't want to let go. I don't want to let go. I'm the only one who can do it like that. And I have a really specific way for this. And no, I have to just like micromanage that. I can't let that task go. I want to kind of flip the script and challenge you to say, you know what? How would I channel all of that like micromanaging energy into, ooh, I'm going to make this a game. How can I find the right person? What kind of a job description would I have to write to truly attract that A player type personality for this role? Like, channel that energy into, how do I find that perfect, amazing person to fit this role or these tasks, or, and so I would just challenge that person to kind of flip that way of thinking and to make it a really fun, enjoyable process. It doesn't have to be this process of, oh man, I can't believe I have to let that thing go, or, what if you make it a fun, exciting, really positive thing? It frees you up. You get to watch someone else flourish and grow. I promise, once you find that right fit, it really is life changing.
Wow. I love that approach. And I talk a lot about this idea of letting go of control, but never quite spoke about it from that perspective. So, but it just resonates with me. And honestly, that was something that I really struggled with. Like, I remember, particularly when it came to teaching, where if I was working with a student and then they would work with another teacher and the student would prefer working with the other teacher, that it definitely hurt my ego. But I recognize that honestly, this is what I want. I want to hire teachers that are better than me, because if I just hire teachers that maybe have less experience than I have or aren't as skilled, then no one, so what I'm looking
Nobody
for.
wins.
Right, exactly. Nobody wins in that situation. So letting our ego go a little bit, putting that aside, and just kind of focusing on finding that right person, that just makes such a difference. So thank you for that advice.
Yeah, when your business becomes the best business it can be, and when your life becomes the best life it can be, it's because you got better people than you to do the things and to work with you. When you surround yourself with highly competent, wonderful humans that you love working with, that your clients enjoy, that just turn out excellent results, everyone wins. Like, you have done a better job as the business owner if you hire someone who's better at social media to do your social media. Like, that's a win for you, not oh, you're bad at social media, you're a bad job business owner. No, amazing job business owner for getting someone else in that role. Like, everyone truly wins when you surround yourself with people who are better than you at things.
100%. Could not agree more. So, you're a busy mom with 2 toddlers. What boundaries or systems have helped you balance work and family life successfully?
Yes. So one thing that's I don't really hear this answer often to this question. I've never really heard someone talk about it this way, but for me personally, something that works very well for me in this season specifically, I might might totally change this later, but as we talked about, my kids are very young. They're 2.5 and 1.5. So they're very much toddlers, very much dependent. And so what has worked well for me is, first of all, taking the pressure off of myself to have a normal work schedule. So what this means is that some Mondays, I am more so in full mom mode and I do not get a lot of needle movers done. And at the end of the day, it really didn't look like a huge work CEO day for me. And then sometimes on a Sunday afternoon, evening, when other people say to rest because it's a quote unquote weekend, it's Sunday, it's rest day, kind of like this stigma about Saturdays and Sundays. But what if for me that week, because of anything, my toddler's sleep schedules, my husband's schedule, like life things, what if my Sunday afternoon, evening is like the perfect work time for me and I get so much done and it feels great and productive? I've let myself let go of schedule stigmas and kind of, I've just let myself have grace in that way of a lot of work days look like heavy duty mom days. And sometimes certain weekend times or evening times or whatever, I would rather work and I would have rather rested earlier in the day. Like I've totally let go of that type of scheduling. So that is what has worked really well for me specifically. In terms of boundaries, I very much, and I try to be so intentional about, I don't want to be that mom who, when my children are older and later in life, they think if they were to draw a picture of me, they'd draw me with my laptop or with my phone next to me and things like that. And I know, I get it. It's so hard, especially like I work from home and I'm a stay-at-home mom. And so like, what do you do? How do you practically juggle it? I totally get it. I'm right there with you and with your listeners. But I really, truly try to be intentional about making sure that they are set up. They have everything they need. They're playing, I've made my business model and my systems work so that I genuinely can get everything done during those nap times, or they're playing, they're having a good independent time, whatever. I get on my laptop, I get some things done. It's no big deal. It doesn't disrupt our lives. I don't have to put off like something with them in order to do the work. And a lot of that has to do with how I've set up my business model, my schedule, how I've set up my tasks. So yeah.
Yeah, no, and it's actually really nice to hear that you don't have a set schedule, because I find myself doing a very similar thing where sometimes, like, Sundays actually tend to be my most productive days because my husband's home, so he's able to help a little bit more with the kids. And we usually don't have very many commitments on Sundays, so I'm not like driving them all over the place, whereas like during the week and even Saturdays, there's just a lot of like, drive them here, pick this person up here, do that, So yeah, it's nice to hear that other moms are also kind of setting up their schedule in similar ways. For someone who is just starting to think about creating systems, where would you recommend they begin?
So the number one thing I would say as step one is, if you have a project management system, like an online software, plug into it, use it more. If you don't, you really need one. I don't want all of your business details, all of your systems, everything to just live in random Google Docs and random notes app things and emails. It's fine to have systems in a Google Doc and things, but where do those Google Docs live? In a project management system linked to everything. And so first of all, I want you to get a project management system. I use and love Trello. You totally do not need to use Trello. There are so many out there: Asana, Notion, Monday.com, many different types. I recommend kind of plugging into a lot of the free versions and just seeing what feels the best for you, what makes sense for your brain. I know a lot of people who use like different project management systems than I do, and they swear by them. They love them. It just makes sense to them and how they think. But when I tried it, it was just clunky, I didn't like the layout, whatever it is, find whatever works for you. And then make it a daily habit to log in to your account in your project management system. I don't care if you just click through the things and play around with it, create a board, create some lists, just play in there, get used to it. What I want you to do is train yourself to log in once a day and look at it and get comfortable using it. And then from there, the second thing I would do is I teach my students to categorize their business into different categories that make sense for them. This isn't necessarily, it can be, but it doesn't have to be the 6 pillars I talked about: leadership, team, profit, offer, marketing, operations. You can totally write those 6 out in the project management system and then add in all your business details and everything that anyone would ever have to know or want to know about those areas of business. Or you can do it, I prefer to do a little bit differently inside of my Trello account. I organize my business based on the different areas. So for me, I have my membership, my podcasts, my social media, my team, one-on-one clients, if I ever have one-on-one offers, which I don't have open right now, but every now and then. And so I like to kind of organize it like that. So whatever is specific for your business, if you have a physical product and a podcast and you do a live event every year or whatever, you would have a different board for each of those different areas of your business. And what I found is it's so nice when let's say you create your free Trello account and you add in your different areas of business as you go through your work week and your first month or so of having that project management system running, you just add in to your project management system anything that you ever do, ever think of, anything your team does, anything that just pops into your brain throughout the week, throughout the month, and you add it into that board. And like I said, if you truly log in once per day, literally 2 minutes, 3 minutes, first thing in the day, you just log in, you look around, you add a few things, you play, you learn about that software. If you do that for a month straight, I promise you will start to think differently in terms of how organized am I? Am I a pretty chaotic business owner? Am I organized with all my things? Everything nitty gritty down to how do I save my passwords? What if a password updates? How does my team member know that? All those random nitty gritty things that come up throughout the weeks and the months, add in every single thing ever into your project management system under those categories. And you will slowly but surely start to find that you're just more organized, you're more on top of things, you communicate better with your team and clients, it's easier to find things, you start to just think a little differently. So I know I kind of just threw a lot out there, but that's where I would start.
That is gold. So I use Asana, but I spend more time in Asana than I do in my inbox. Years ago, I was all when I would sit down to work, I would just open my inbox and then I would just go through the emails and then I would get to my to-do list. But I check my inbox once each day, but I don't really respond to emails except for once a week, where I just clear out my inbox. Otherwise, I'm all in my project management system. And I even have personal boards too, where I can organize my personal life, So that's even if you're listening and you're not used to using a project management system, maybe start by just kind of creating a personal board and just to kind of learn and figure things out. But I live by Asana. It's wonderful.
I love that differentiation you just made of you used to be ruled by your inbox and that's what started your workday and how you worked. And now you're logging into a totally different area, your Asana, and that's how you focus on your needle movers. And maybe your inbox is a task that's in a to-do list in Asana. It's not the other way around. And that's the key I want people to hear of. That's how I want you to run your life and your business. You don't want your inbox to rule your time and your to-do list for sure.
Absolutely not. Yeah. No, it's huge. Amazing. All right, Amanda, how can people find you? I know you have your Freedom Society, you have the Pursuit podcast. Is there anywhere else where our listeners can find you and follow you?
Yeah, so I hang out on Instagram a lot. My handle is at pursuit.company. And so you can always DM me there, check out my things. I also have a freebie, which is the 6-pillar business checklist that will go more into depth of the 6 pillars I talked about and just help you really kind of see where you're at as a business owner, areas you're strong in, areas you could improve. So you can get that freebie totally for free. And yeah, you can always DM me about the Freedom Society and check out my Instagram. That's where I'm at a lot.
Wonderful. And yes, I will link the freebie in the show notes. That way everyone can get a hold of that, and definitely go download that, because that is just going to give you so much clarity on the areas of your business where you could refine and systemize and clean up, if you will. So Amanda, thank you again so much for coming on, sharing all of your wisdom and your wonderful stories. And thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Christina.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Blissful Mompreneur Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a fellow mompreneur who might benefit from the advice. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, click the notification bell, and leave a comment below letting me know your biggest takeaway. It helps me reach more amazing women just like you. Thank you again for being here, and until next time, keep pursuing your bliss.